Hi everyone, this is Paul here from the Magdalene Centre. Today I'm going to talk about the full moon in Sagittarius, which takes place on the 9th of June at 10 minutes past 1 in the afternoon Universal Time. So people in the UK which have an hour ahead because it's British summertime, it will be at 10 past 2. Now this full moon consists of the Sun in Gemini, where it's been transiting for the past few weeks and will continue up until the summer solstice, and the moon, which is passing through Sagittarius at the moment and reaches full moon at 10 past 1 Universal Time, 10 past 2 in the UK. So this is about balancing out between the themes of Gemini and the themes of Sagittarius. So the two energies are complementary, they both mirror each other. So if you move away from Gemini, you move towards Sagittarius, and if you're moving away from Sagittarius towards opposite, you reach Gemini. So Gemini is all about rational intellect. It's our daily thinking, it's our the linear thoughts that we have, and it's the standard routine way of communicating. So it's all the left brain functions. So it's taking in the data and then doing basic analysis, and we taking that data through our senses and generate sort of thoughts which are the precursor to the actions that we eventually take. It's also communication. So how do we communicate our points of view? How do we explain to other people the way we see things? And how do we communicate our own personal truths whilst ideally remaining open-minded to what other people have to say? Gemini is the sign of the journalist, and if we're doing journalism properly, we're not saying this is the absolute truth. We're saying these are the facts that we've gathered, this is the raw data, these are possible interpretations, this is how we see it, but have a look yourself and see what conclusions you come to. So that's what journalism should really be about. It's honest communication of the basic facts and leaving it open to interpretation for other people to do. And we then, by using consensus, so each person communicates their own personal interpretation of the facts that we've got, and we come to an eventual agreement, ideally, of what the underlying reality is, because we all create a model of the world in our own head through the information we take on board, and then, but that's the world that we see. It's the one we create inside our own heads. We don't see all the facts come to us because we have our own selective biases, which we may not even be aware of. But through communicating with other people without blindly agreeing or disagreeing to what they say, we can start to challenge our basic assumptions that underlie our perceptions, and get a more accurate view of what the world is and make better decisions based on that. Because the more informed we are and the more open we are to new ideas, the better the solutions we can create to whatever problems we have to deal with. Now, that's the Sun in Gemini. The Moon is in Sagittarius, so this is the opposing sign. If Gemini is about the questions, Sagittarius is about creating the answers, but it's also about developing systemic thinking rather than just linear. By that, what I mean is we don't just see the individual facts, we appreciate where do they fit in the grand picture. Each one of us has our own worldview. This is Sagittarius for you. It's how do we view the world and how do we formulate our beliefs based on our experiences. Now, the pitfall we've got to be wary of in Sagittarius is blindly dismissing our personal experience over beliefs that we've been indoctrinated with. Sagittarius is the sign that's rule of religions. Ideally, it's about natural law, so we understand the natural laws and we live our lives based on them, through developing greater understanding, constant questioning through Gemini, and arriving at new answers which are close to the truth. But if we just doggedly pursue our own personal beliefs without allowing them to be modified by our personal experiences, because we don't believe there's any other way of looking at things, then we really limit who we can be, what we can achieve, because we're not open to the wisdom coming through new experiences. Because there's one thing having a load of knowledge, but if we don't even know how to apply it, then at worst the knowledge is, or at best what knowledge is useless, and at worst it's outright dangerous. So we have to listen to the wisdom from our own experiences and use those experiences to open our minds further, because Sagittarius has 3 levels of learning. You've got, and 3 archetypes associated with them. So you've got the Gypsy, which is about physical travel, so we experience brand new environments which are new to us, and so this helps expand our minds through seeing new locations that we wouldn't normally go to. So this is more like not your local neighbourhood. This is Gemini. Sagittarius is going across another country, a completely different culture. Though if you live in a society that's got a lot of different cultures within it, you can always try meeting people from there and asking what their beliefs are and understand what their perceptions are, because whenever you do travel to different countries, it challenges you to realise there's not just one way of living. There are many different lifestyles out there. Now obviously we've got to make sure that whatever lifestyle we're living is true to who we are. We don't just try and copy other people, otherwise we don't learn who we are. So it's not a case of trying to be someone else or anything like that. That's the wrong way to go about it. It's about expanding our perception and listening to what other people from different backgrounds have to say and see if they've got a valid point, because through exploring other cultures, that's where we learn the universal values, because there are certain values in each culture based on the status quo that are unique to that culture, but underpinning every society there are some universal values like love, honesty, justice, truth, freedom to pursue our own beliefs, kindness, integrity, patience, and wisdom. These are universal values that every culture at some point within it values quite dearly. Now, how many cultures actually follow those values is up for debate, but if we explore other cultures, other belief systems, and compare them to our own, we can then see what are the subjective values based on the culture we were raised in, and what are the universal ones that unite us all. Because when we pursue the universal ones and we cherish them, then we're more likely to stick to the long-range goals that are designed to improve conditions for everyone and not just ourselves, and it allows us to set aside self-interest. Now, the other archetypes of Sagittarius are the students. This is the mental learner, so learning loads of facts and seeing the links between everything. So this is about mental expansion. If the Gypsy is the physical expansion, then the student is about expanding our mental perceptions. And then the final one is the philosopher. So this is the intuitive side. This is channeling wisdom and creating a philosophical framework that all the different knowledge and experiences that we've gathered fit into. But the philosopher side of us won't work if we don't engage the other two. We have to explore other environments in order to appreciate there's different lifestyles, different laws of the land depending on where you are, and engaging the student through expanding our mental perceptions, expanding our mental understanding of things, because all these gather experiences, and these experiences are what ultimately form our belief systems. And if we're open to new experiences and we're prepared to challenge our own underlying assumptions and underlying beliefs, then we can free our minds and tap into a much greater wisdom than is possible if we just stick rigidly to our own belief system without questioning our assumptions, which are usually they're often unconscious, and we don't question them. Now, the ruler of this full moon, Jupiter, he turns direct on the same day as the full moon, so he's in a weak trine to the sun, sextile to the moon, so he's in harmonious aspects to the two. Now, for the past 4 months or so, with Jupiter being retrograde, our energy levels may have been a bit lower than before, and we may not have felt much expansion going on external to us, because all of it is being channeled inwards to try and get us in touch with our wisdom and to question the conventional wisdom behind some of the things that we've been doing. And he's in Libra at the moment, So this is all about things like justice, harmony, balance in relationships, equality, equity. So major themes that expansion is through, but when Jupiter has been retrograde, it's all been questioning our own beliefs. Do we have the courage to follow our own individual beliefs, or do we just blindly follow the status quo out of fear? Now, when Jupiter goes direct on the day of the full moon, we may feel a sudden burst of energy, we may feel a lot of sudden forward movement. But one thing we have to guard against during this is that all that expansive energy directed outwards from Jupiter doesn't just inflate our egos. Because we may be eager to take action, but we have to make sure that the wisdom that we've gleaned in the past 4 months of Jupiter's retrograde is not just discarded willy-nilly. So, as much as we may have a sudden forward thrust in our actions, our goals, we have to make sure that whatever wisdom that we worked for during the retrograde is followed and adhered to, so that we don't just do something because our ego thinks it's the right thing to do, and we actually do what's right for our soul and our soul purpose. Because Jupiter just expands indiscriminately. It can either expand your wisdom or expand your ego. You've got to choose which one you want to happen. Because if we expand the ego, that's when we risk things like fanaticism. We've seen the results of that around the world, where people think they know the absolute answer and everyone else is wrong, and prepared to go to extremes to try and prove it. What is the point? We all have different beliefs. We've all had different experiences throughout life that were the formative experiences that modified our belief systems to what we know them as today. That belief system should not remain fixed, because when it's fixed, that's when we stop growing. That's when we cut off our connection to divinity. Our higher power is always there, ready for us to tap into. And when the positive aspects of Sagittarius, like optimism, generosity, joy, freedom, that's when those start to decline. So we have to remain humble in the process, and to be open to other experiences, and extend love, optimism, generosity towards others. Because it's through those qualities, when done honestly and not just as a front, that we can really elicit change and we can achieve greater freedom. But we have to make sure that it's coming from our soul and not our ego. So that's the main thing we need to be wary of when we get this sudden, because obviously you've got the burst of energy at the full moon itself, but with Jupiter going direct, it's going to be a massive wave of energy that we all feel, and we have to make sure that we stay true to the wisdom of our souls, and we don't just blindly follow the appetites of the ego, because otherwise we risk coming out with the shadow side of Sagittarius, which is judgmentalism, fanaticism, blindness to truth, and pursuing goals which are not wise and aren't actually true to who we are. So there's a lot going on. We also have a weak square from Neptune, so this challenges us to open our sense of self up to spiritual energy and allow it to permeate our being, allow it to dissolve some of the ego structures that we've had, to allow a new form to take place within us. It's tapping into the wisdom, sort of letting go of our material attachments to some extent, and embracing change, embracing a higher power flowing through us, and learn to see ourselves as spiritual beings, have a human experience and not the other way. So we're not seeing it as a pursuit of spirituality. We see that spirituality is a fundamental part of who we are, and that we need to tame the ego and follow our soul's purpose. So there's a lot to take on board, but I hope it's a useful guide for what this full moon contains. May bring many blessings for you, and a chance to reflect on how things are going in life, and whether we're channeling our expansive energies in a wise, constructive manner that will bring grace through cooperation, or if we're doing it just to get a big head. So take care, be blessed.